Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Criterium du Dauphine, a really important warm-up race for the Tour de France this year because we've got a lot of the big contenders. Maybe the only ones who aren't here are pretty much like Jonas and Pog. There are some other ones who will be taking part in Tour de Suisse. Of course, I will be doing a video for that when it comes out, but in terms of the Dauphiné, Roglic and Remco, the most expensive riders, 26 credits and 22 credits. I think there's a certain element of innate risk with going with either of these riders based upon the fact that they both crashed in Basque Country, so therefore their preparation for this race, I presume, hasn't been entirely ideal. I haven't seen anything of Roglic, but Remco seems to be kind of throwing up quite a lot of smoke and mirrors in the press, saying that he's not here for GC, he's just here to, I don't know, find his legs and stuff, but I'm really not sure how much to buy into that. Whenever a rider says that who's a big name, it's just like, I feel like it's just very deflective, and it's, you know, they're probably actually feeling fine. Remco is the TT champion of the world, and that big, stage 4 TT is definitely going to suit him. Him and Tarling should be competing for that. I mean, Roglic and Remco, the thing is, both of them could be fantastic picks. You could go with both of them, and they could very well be first and second on GC, but it's just that the other riders here, like Ayuso, Rodriguez, Jorgensen, etc., didn't crash in Basque Country, and therefore they've had a smoother run up to this race. And that is really the predicament. If Roglic and Remco are in really good form, they're fantastic picks. No doubt about it, because there's loads of GC days. But it's just how you feel about putting on somebody who may not be at 100%. If I was to pick one of them, I'd probably pick Remco because he's 4 credits cheaper, and I don't think that Roglic is categorically that much better than Remco, Ayuso or Rodriguez for the price. So I'd probably say I'd go with Remco. But yeah, it just depends whether you think the crash has really affected them that much for this race. Ayuso, I think, is a fine pick. He did crack a little bit of Romandy, which is a little bit concerning on that stage which Carapaz won ahead of Lipovitz. But Ayuso has got a really good sprint at the top of a mountain, which is going to be really useful on stages, I think, like 2 and 3, or 3 and 4, I can't remember which ones they are. But Ayuso's really good at those. He's got a great TT. He should be doing good in GC, and, you know, ahead of a Tour, he'll be looking to get a good run at this. So I think Ayuso's good. I think Rodriguez is good as well. He's had a really good kind of building up into this year. He started off a bit slow, but now, you know, he came second in Basque Country and he won the Tour of Romandy. I know it was up against maybe not the toughest of competition, especially in Basque Country where a lot of them crashed, but I like Rodriguez for this. I think that he's just a solid option at 18. And, like, you know, is he going to be winning any stages? Probably not. But is he going to just consistently probably be like top 5 on all the mountains, or at least like top 7? Yeah. So I think he's nice and safe. Then you got these 3 of Kuss, Vlasov and Hindley, where I don't really know what to expect of them. I'm probably not going to pick either of these, just because Hindley and Vlasov I expect to be domestiques, and it just feels a bit risky to be putting that many credits into somebody who may or may not even be leading their team. And the same goes with Kuss. I just don't know what to expect from him. In 1 week races, he seemingly doesn't do that great, and I would favour picking Jorgensen, to be honest with you. He won Paris-Nice earlier this year, after all. And I think he will be looking to really show a bit of, I don't know, like, you know, just another consistent stage race. Show that Paris-Nice, you know, he can back that up. And, you know, ahead of a Tour, show that he's a real good leader for their team. So I think Jorgensen's good. I'm not sure about those 3. Very similarly for Landa and Van Wilder, I don't know what to expect from them. But as domestiques for Remco, who will inevitably be their leader, barring anything catastrophic, like him just not being in good form at all, I don't think either of these 2 will be getting that many points, unless they're like the last domestique standing. Van Wilder's got the slight edge of he's got a better TT, but Landa will more than likely last longer on the climbs. 12 credit riders, you got Buitrago, I'd say, is the best one for me, even though he will lose probably at least 1.5 to 2 minutes in the TT, I'd say. He's pretty good at those mountaintop kind of sprints, like I said with Ayuso, so that's quite good. And I think that Bahrain have said that he is the leader alongside Tiberi. Of course, he's coming off of a Giro, so I don't know what to expect from him. Usually, the majority of riders coming off of a Giro going into a Dauphiné don't do that great, but there are some who do perform. And Tiberi could definitely do that. I think that he ended the Giro quite on a high, I think. I think that he was definitely, other people were fading, like O'Connor and G, but Tiberi was definitely on an upward trajectory, so maybe that's slightly favourable towards picking him. And he's got a good TT. So I think that, the Bahrain boys are great picks. Godu and Teo I'm less inclined to, just because Godu just hasn't had a good run this year. I just don't think he's that great. And Teo, very similarly, since joining Lidl Trek, just hasn't been that great. Not quite, in like the Ineos era where he was like really on fire. 10 credit riders have got loads to choose from. I mean, Ciccone hasn't done that many race days this year, but probably worthwhile considering if he can sprint at some of the climbs. Gregoire has the problem where he'll probably be underneath the shadow of Godu, who seems to run for Groupama FDJ's show. He seems to be making most of the decisions in that team, so I don't know what kind of freedom Gregoire's going to get. But in theory, he's got a good shot of competing for a lot of the stages. But he probably won't do that great in GC, so maybe he's not going to be that great. Especially when you consider that you could go with Pedersen instead of Gregoire, and Pedersen is more likely to win his 2 in theory sprints, which are going to happen, than Gregoire is to win 2 stages up against loads of competition, because Gregoire's going to have to go up against every other GC contender and other punchers, whereas Pedersen is probably the best sprinter in this race alongside Bennett. So if you want to go for just more guaranteed safe points, go with Pedersen. If you're feeling a bit risky, go with Gregoire, go with Paulus. UAE guys are just going to be domestiques at the end of the day. And Turns, maybe if you're feeling really spicy, maybe you could go with Turns. He did have a decent Ardennes Classics, but we haven't seen him since, so I'm not sure who Israel Premier Tech are leading with in this race. Barguil is apparently the GC leader for DSM Firmenich Poster now in this race, but I'm not really expecting too much from him. I just see him more as a breakaway mountain rider and better in Grand Tours than stage races. Bennett has been in great form recently. The 4 days of Dunkirk, which are actually 6 days, he did great there, especially on the stage 5 where there was quite a bit of climbing. He was doing really well, so I don't think Bennett will get dropped that hard, if at all, on the sprints actually. Even if there are some climbs in there, I think Bennett's looking good. De Plus I like because he will probably be the last domestique for Carlos Rodriguez when you look at the Ineos team as a whole. I'd say that De Plus could definitely come top 10 in this race, and I'm definitely earmarking him if he's going into the Tour squad, because I think that he's looking really good this year. Formolo could do something because Movistar don't have a big leader, and I remember Formolo won that stage in, 2021, when he was in the Italian champs jersey at UAE. He won at the Dauphiné, so Formolo could definitely do something. Harper, last time we saw him was with that unfortunate crash at Tour of the Alps, and I think that their media seems to suggest that he is fully recovered from that. He's been training and he's fine, so I think that Harper could definitely finish top 10 in this race, and at 8 credits I think that's a little bit of a steal, so I think that you should be picking up Harper. And then you got a load of other sprinters, maybe you could go with Menton, you could go with Godon if you think that that Bennett's not going to make it. And then, I don't know, Tarling for the almost guaranteed TT, Rodriguez, Romo for the slight GC option, Fortunato as well. You just got Antehada. You got so many of these guys who could go top 15 GC, but that's not going to get you that many points, so you're probably better off going with Harper as the best GC option, or maybe Bennett as the sprinter. 6 credit riders, Berthet is probably the best one. He looked great at the Mercan Tour, the one which Lenny Martinez won. He was 10 seconds behind him. He's looking great. Pretty much the only climber that Decathlon AG2R have in this race. So Berthet is looking really good, and he'll probably get into the Tour squad as well. Boven, good sprinter for Alpecin de Koenig. There's no Axel Laurence in this race anymore, so he should be the sprinter for Alpecin de Koenig. Champoussin blows a bit hot and cold, but he definitely gets into these, he could get into some breakaways and do something. Castro Viejo actually came 3rd in a breakaway last year, behind Zimmerman and Mathieu Bergadeau. You guys remember that? Charmeg is very similar to Champoussin, just a decent climber, but probably not going to be that great in GC. Magnus Cort I do like. He's just that kind of maverick. Could get involved in the sprints. Actually climbed very well at the recent Tour of Norway. And I think that's looking pretty good. He could definitely get involved in some of these sprints, and because he was the lead-out man for Christoph in Tour of Norway. So I think at courts, he's really good. And, whenever he's 6 credits, he's always a little bit deadly. So I'd probably be picking him up. De Preto is probably the fastest man Jaco have for the couple of sprints that there will be. Ivan Garcia Cortina, again, another sprinter that you could be going with. But other than that, you're looking at a lot of climbers. Kobe Kosens, Zheniets, Gorka Izagir, Keplinger, James Knox, Kwiatkowski, Lascano for the breakaways is definitely worthwhile mentioning. Leknesund could go top 20 GC. Bart Lemon was, I can't remember, I think was he top 3 in GC in the recent Tour of Norway? He's definitely top 5, so he could be good, but he is also probably going to be chained to Jorgensen and Sepp Kuss. Mulberger was 5th in that Mercantor, so he's climbing quite well at the moment. Quinn is the recent USA champion, but he only just beat McNulty despite the 1-2s that EF did, so I'm not really sure how impressive that victory was, because he only just edged him. But he is the national champion nonetheless, so morale is high. Schoins for the breakaways, Vontarini is a sprinter, Verona for a top 20 GC, Zimmerman to repeat what he did last year and win a stage. So you got lots of options there. To be honest, I don't really know which ones are my favourites. I'd say Magnus Cort Nielsen and Belte are my favourites, and then everybody else that I mentioned you could go with. They're all on a pretty similar level. Maybe Zimmerman, but just because he's one of the only climbers that they've got. And then the 4 credits, you might very well be needing some of these. I mean, Adne Holter was 3rd in the recent Tour of Norway, so I'm not sure if that was just peaking your form massively for the local race because you're the kind of Norwegian team. But that, form is form. He was 3rd there, so therefore he could be good here. Mason, just give a shout out because I know him. Leapin's good sprinter, well, in this field, a good sprinter. For a couple of top 10s in the sprints, could definitely work out for you there. Callum Scottson was top 10 GC at the Tour of Hungary. And Hugo Tormia, I don't know. That name's shouting out at me. I swear he used to be top 10 in Tour de l'Avenir or something like that. So maybe he could, roll the clock back a little bit. And Vergelito is probably the best climber that Alps and Koenig have. You could go Michael Vink as well. If you wanted just GC, but Vergelito could definitely run a top 25 GC. The best of these 4 credit riders is probably going to be Adne Holter or Leapins, I'd say, based upon how Leapins does in the sprints. This is my team at the moment: Remco, Rodriguez, Boitrago, Jorgensen, Harper, Pedersen, Belte, Vergelito and Cort. Very GC heavy, you'll see, with probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders to finish top 15 in GC, just because it is such a climbing race. Pedersen I've got here at the moment, but he might be swapped out. But you know what, the 2 almost definitely going to be top 3 in those 2 sprints. It's just some nice guaranteed points, and I don't know, other 10 credit riders just seem a little bit too risky for me. I might try and get Tiberian over him instead, just to get another GC option, but we'll have to wait and see. So let me know what you're thinking in the comment section down below. Who are you thinking of picking? And also let me know if you'd like a Brussels Cycling Classic preview. I wasn't thinking of doing one, but I thought I'd just ask you guys here because lots of people tend to watch the Dauphiné stuff, but not the Super Classico. So you guys who like the Super Classico will definitely let me know. But all that's left to say is to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Salut!